I'm Tracy of Tracy Poizner Holiopathic Medicine, and this is my 10th year as a Ness practitioner. My journey into medicine started about 30 years ago, actually, when I was not involved in medicine at all. I was actually working as a classical musician, playing in a symphony orchestra. And I had a baby. She was a toddler at the time. And it was kind of stressful for me. Work was high pressure. My husband was an opera singer, and he was traveling a lot of the time. So often I was alone with my daughter, working long hours. I was under a lot of stress too. And my daughter was suffering from a kind of yeast infection. And I kept thinking, like, how does a baby get a yeast infection, and why won't it go away? I couldn't understand what was wrong. And the medical doctor didn't seem too concerned about it. But as a mother, I was worried because it went on and nothing that I did seemed to make any difference. So I took her to see a naturopath, and that was a brand new thing for me. And he was using homeopathy on her. And I became intrigued, and I started reading the books that he had there in his office. And then I started reading books from our public library, and then I started taking courses. And before I knew it, I was just so passionate about it that before long I had taken all the courses I needed to be qualified as a practitioner. And it was never my intention to practice. It was just for my own interest and to use on my family. But I had qualified as a practitioner, and a friend of mine started sending a lot of clients to me. And that was the start of my practice that just became a word of mouth practice. And I still have clients coming to see me who've been with me for 18 or 19 years. As the years went on and my practice grew, I was interested in branching out into different areas of holistic medicine. And eventually I went from strictly homeopathy into what I called a holiopathic approach, which is really an umbrella holistic approach to wellness. And I started to include things like Bach flowers and essential oils and gemotherapy. So reaching out for something like Ness was a natural extension to the way that my practice was growing. I was originally introduced to Ness by a homeopathic colleague, and at the time that it was brought into my awareness, it was way too out there for me. I was a very conservative holistic practitioner, although that sounds kind of funny. And the Ness scan just seemed, I wasn't interested in using technology at the time in my practice. And some years later, my clients started asking, like, isn't there a computer-based scan that I could use? Or people were just approaching me and asking me for that kind of service. So I went back to the person who had initially showed me the scan, and I asked her to scan me and walk me through it. And I was blown away. In particular, I remember this so clearly. I remember that my reading for cell phone came out as 0, but my reading for computer was at 4 at the highest reading. And she said to me, what I gather from this is that you don't spend much time on your phone, but you're in front of your computer a lot. Is that right? And it hit me like an arrow in the heart. It was so accurate, and I knew that it was true. And it was so much more impactful than if she had just said, I'm looking at all of your symptoms here, and I'm wondering if you're sensitive to some kind of electromagnetic frequencies. Is it possible that you spend a lot of time in front of your computer? I would have pushed it aside, but because I saw it on the screen, it was so impactful for me. And that's what it does for my clients. The compliance is through the roof when they see it in front of them on the screen. One client that stands out for me from many years ago was a woman who was referred to me by an osteopath, actually, because she was experiencing recurring episodes of severe dizziness where the room would spin and she would feel nauseous. She could hardly leave the house. And she had really tried everything. And my colleague thought that maybe this is something that could be helpful. So we did a few scans, we worked with the infoceuticals, and there was like a little bit of improvement at first, feeling a little bit better, whatever I might normally expect. But on one occasion, she almost burst through my office door and came in and said, "You can't believe how good I feel. No, really, you can't believe how good I feel. I haven't felt like this in 20 years. And as we got talking, I said, "Well, tell me about your dizziness." And she said, "Oh, whatever. It happens once in a while. I sit down for a few minutes. But have I told you how great I feel?" And this was so, well, of course it was wonderful to hear, but that is what I hear with a really, really well-chosen homeopathic remedy, a real simillimum. That kind of language, like I haven't felt like this in 20 years. So that was when I knew this stuff works, absolutely. My number one tip for other practitioners is to use the patterns function on the recommendation screen. My clients already understand that this system invites their body to announce what it's ready to work on, to let us know where we can get in today to get the maximum benefit. And the patterns show things like asthma support or nervous support or immune support. And that, for me, it really helps to dialogue with the client and let them interact with me around which of those things is really resonating with them. So that helps me adjust the recommendations of the program to what the client is going to feel best about participating with. So use the patterns. I have found the scan to be super helpful to me as a case-taking tool, as part of my normal case-taking process with my clients, because it leads them to tell me things that they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. For instance, I can remember one client seeing the fear of attack come up on the mind-body screen, and I said, "Is that something that has any meaning for you?" And she said, "Oh yeah," and there was a whole story about being regularly chased by a dog and how terrified she was. And this was a lady who was suffering from free-floating anxiety that I hadn't been able to help. So it was amazing that we got straight to a story that she probably wouldn't have thought to tell me. It's incredibly rewarding for me to be able to use a tool that helps clients get to a deep place in their wellness journey that they can't get anywhere else. There's no other kind of practitioner that can offer this comprehensive, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual wellness all in one package. They can't get it anywhere else. And I feel really proud to be able to offer that in my practice.